chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
The Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all, or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, hashtag life change will occur.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
Live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Our very special guest today is Ken Sickenger. He's the beat writer for the Albuquerque Journal, covers the UNM women, the Albuquerque Isotopes, also the UNM baseball team. Catches right up today in the Albuquerque Journal. Ken, so good to have you with us.
Great to be here, Ed.
You know, you and I, now I covered the home games, the home Lobo ladies with Adam Deal when I'm in town, because last weekend I was at Western New Mexico, and you and I talked about the Lady Lobos, and there's a lot of things. We'll get into the first segment. You know, you got to go at 12 o'clock, but I want to talk about the team itself, and we'll get into all the other stuff because there's stuff around the scenes. You wrote an article on Saturday, and you know, a lot of people, and I think you know, Coach Bradbury in his 4th season here at UNM, I think they were favored as conference favorites. They were looked at as conference favorites. What I've seen, Asia Robertson, 70% maybe. You know, it's about 70%. Some games she can really, the playmaking is there. There's no question. There's games she's had 13 assists. The playmaking's been there. But the explosiveness and athleticism is not there, not yet. And I don't know that we're going to see that. And you know, it's been since March since she got that injury, and in fairness to her. Jayla Everett off the team, Naja Howell off the team, Bridie Kennedy, Hope Awate left. They all left the team. And Jayla Everett just recently. They did win Saturday, which was a good win for them. They did win. He's having to play Autumn Watts a little bit more. Shy Magruder in and out, and you know, and it seemed like she had gotten her spot taken by Autumn Watts, and now she's back in the rotation. Ken, give us your insight. I mean, I've got a lot. I can go on and on, man. You know, you and I talk basketball. We can go because you're still an active player, by the way. I keep telling you, I'm going to go down there, and you know, we're gonna go at it. But I got to get my knees right. I don't know if they'll ever be right. But tell us your observations, what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the team that they have right now, it's a lot different than the team they started the year with. I mean, I think that you've got some players that are in the rotation that weren't in the rotation, and you know, usually you're building that chemistry, kind of getting familiar with everybody's roles early in the season. Well, this team has had to do it again twice, and they're doing it now. as you said, they played very well on Saturday, and I think now that they only have 10 players on the team, they're all going to play, and they know that. So it may be a matter where their rotation is coming together and the chemistry is good, but we haven't had enough of a sample size to really know that yet. But there's still some good pieces, but it's just a different team.
And again, they were looked at as, they did lose Nike McClure and Jason Nutt, and those were big losses. Now, those two had an inside presence, but the person to me, and I said this on the Mountain West Network, that's the glue of that team is Jordan Hosey. Jordan Hosey takes the charges, gets the rebounds, uses her quickness against bigger post people to nullify whatever threat they seem to be. It takes the elbows to the face. To me, that's the heart and soul of that team.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, she's kind of the unsung hero, and you know how that is, having players that are willing to do the dirty work. And most of her shots that she's going to take are from 5 feet or in close to the basket, and most of them come after rebounds. They're not going to run a lot of plays for her, so she just has to kind of go out there and be willing to be that kid that will, like you said, battle the bigger players. I'm sure she's very sore after a game, and she rightfully so, but she absolutely plays with a lot of heart and just doesn't give up, and you got to appreciate that.
I think the Pitt fans really do. I've got some people that sit in front of me. They always make some comments about things they might have heard us say, but Jordan Hosey to me is just that player. I likened her to a Joe Furtstinger. She's a little bit more talented than a Joe Furtstinger. She has more talent than natural talent than Furtstinger did. Furtstinger for the Lobos a couple of years ago gave it everything he had, right? 50-50 loose balls, who's on top of that?
Right.
Taking the charge, who did that? And these are things, unless you know basketball, and you know it pretty well, you don't see that, right? It doesn't show up in the stats. But the plays that got us a possession, that extended the shot clock, gave us a reset. She's just amazing to me. I just love the way she plays. I really do. And it's just, in Floor Burns, who leads the conference in floor? I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of, but she has to be up there. And it's the effort to me. And when I see it, I played, right, coach and ref. That adrenaline still gets going. Sometimes I'm like, wow, because you love to see that. And I think something, again, that's a player that I think is just underrated, undersung, right? And I'm sure the players around her appreciate her, though. They have to. She's 6'1", going up against sometimes 6'5" girls, 6'6" girls. And she always, there's no quarter, riding them off the block. She uses her quickness, 3/4 front, full front, weak side. She does it all.
Oh, she does. And and you talk about her, being out. They're taller than her, but probably some of them have 20 pounds on her too. She's not the biggest girl. But the thing about it is the number that you don't see is probably the most obvious, is that she easily leads the team in taking charges, easily. I'm sure she has twice as many as the next player, and probably is right up there in the Mountain West and among the leaders, but you wouldn't know that number because it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But you and I have seen her, she'll get in there and get bashed, and sometimes she gets called for the block, but more often than not, she gets her feet set and manages to take that charge.
I'll tell you, the other thing, Ken, and what I've noticed is these are charges that are darn hard charges. Hitting the floor. One time she took one to her face, an elbow to her face, and I think it was inadvertent. It was a basketball play, it wasn't no intent there. But she just is so darn tough. What if they didn't have her? Just think about it, right? The season hasn't been what Lobo fans might have wanted and expected, right? I think the win Saturday still gives the Lobos hope. We don't think the season's over by any means. And again, we'll get into that in the second segment about what we think might have gone wrong. Because again, Jayla Everett, Adam Deal and I did a game a couple of weeks ago, and they came back in the second half, and she didn't play. And I didn't recognize that until later because they played so well in the second half without one of their key pieces at that time. Mm-hmm. Because she's a girl that was going to come, again, you got Jayla Everett, Elise Hurst, Karina Carter, Asia Robertson, pretty much have the green light to do what they're going to do, right? And I think sometimes even with Karina Carter, the freshman guard, creative, great vision, she's going to light the house on fire, burn it down, right? And it's going to be both. Sometimes on possessions, the peripheral vision, Ken, is amazing. She makes plays. And then the next possession, a fundamental turnover, unforced turnover, right? So you got to live with all that. I still think the core is pretty good, but losing the players that they did, and especially Jayla Everett's a big loss. Let's not lament that. We know she is. It's a big loss. I think averaged about 13 points a game. And if you lose that and part of your offense, and plus the swag, right? The swag, the attitude. You know, I noticed those things right away, and she's not afraid of anything, right? She'll give you an extra little bow she can, and you know, that's just the way it is. She's going to do that. So, I don't know. What do you think as far as the prospects going forward, what the Lobos have with their current roster?
With their current roster, I think there's some things that, like you said, I mean, obviously, Asia Robertson has not been up to the level that she was last year. I mean, I do think you've seen in the last month she's heading in that direction. She's definitely trending back toward where she was. Gets a little bit better every week, but she's still not that player that she was last year. You can see it when she attacks the basket. You know, she tends to shy away from the contact because she doesn't want to land wrong on that knee. So she's not quite there yet. Karina Carter, like you said, is just, you know, she's so much fun to watch, but the coaching staff at times has to rein her in a little bit because she'll make that crazy pass when a simple pass probably would have gotten the job done. And like you said, sometimes it's going to be a jaw-dropping pass, and she's capable of that, but she's also capable of throwing the ball away. So she's a freshman, you know, I mean, some of that's going to be natural. So I think those two players have to make plays for this team. I mean, they have to set things up. They're going to go, you know, the team will probably go as far as those two can take it. And I think they're trending in the right direction, but there's still progress to be made in both cases.
I think the more days they have off, it's got to be good for Robertson. You get more treatment, you know, and you mentioned she's still shy about exploding. What I've noticed more than anything, the drives to the basket, like you said, shying away from the contact. Because last year, with the athleticism and explosiveness, she's right by somebody, and she's going to score. Lift to score, jump over people. I've noticed some guards in the conference that have no business blocking her shot. And that's the result of not being able to explode. She's got a heavy sleeve on that knee still. Let's remember, it's not been a year. It's not even been a year.
No.
That she's even out there, give her credit. You know, the team needs her, right? They wanted to play her in and kind of ease her into it. And you know what, Ken? That didn't work, man. That didn't work because of the gaping holes left by Naja Howell, Bridie Kennedy Hopoate, and now Jayla Everett. So there's no kind of relaxing, you know, let's limit her minutes maybe that they might have thought about, right? They might have thought about it. You have a deeper roster. Naja Howell was a transfer from UTEP. Bridie Kennedy Hopoate from Iowa. They came highly recommended, man. they both did. And so without those three and without Jayla, Asia's got to carry more of a load than they probably anticipated.
Oh, I agree, absolutely. I think they would have liked to have, like you said, maybe play her 15 minutes a game, work her way up to 20, and you know, maybe by March she's ready to go full bore. But that's not really a possibility for them now. But on the other side of that is, I think you know her a little bit just as I do. Asia Robertson is a baller. She wants to play. She absolutely will do as much as she possibly can do, and she's getting out there and giving it all she can give it. The only thing that I see now with her is that, like I said, she's a little tentative on the attacking the glass, and that's just because she doesn't want to land wrong. But I think everything else is kind of falling into place for her, and I think it's getting closer. So, you know, there's going to be that time when, you know, without thinking about it, you know how it is with injuries. You don't think about it, you just make that play, and then all of a sudden you can do it again.
You know what? That's a good point, and I saw a couple of that, okay? And I saw that a couple of times when she made a play, and then she always does this when she makes a play, right? Okay, a pass, you know, she's got that.
Yep.
One of the things about her is that swag, right? She's from Oakland, man. She's got that swag.
Yes, she does.
You know, I sat next to Ned James, you know, the former Lobo quarterback, and works at UNM, and we were talking about that. And she's not afraid, right? She's got that Mamba mentality, right? if you will, right? Kobe Bryant, of course, tragically passed away on Sunday. I still can't believe that. But she's not afraid. But as an athlete, I think we all know, too, when we're hindered, when we're not quite there. And yes, she's climbing some stairs, right? Climbing some stairs, making some plays, but there's always that one play a game that she's not able to make yet.
Right.
And she has, what did she average? 14.3 last year, 14.3. She was down to 5.3. I don't know what it's at now, probably around 6 or 7. So she's down 9 points. That's significant. Significant because we expected, without the injury, she might average 17 or 18. So that's been huge.
Yeah.
That's been huge. Again, the absences of some other players. And again, we'll get into that in the second segment. But I still think that maybe, you know, again, these times that she's getting the treatment. And people, you know, unless you've been hurt, you've been injured before. I've been injured, man. I've reffed for 22 years. My knees are still feeling the effects of all that playing and officiating. So unless you've been hurt, you wouldn't know, right? People, why can't she do this and that? Unless you stepped out there, you have no clue. And these times now, like, you know, when she's not in class, because that's the first commitment to be a student athlete, she's getting that treatment.
Oh, yeah.
So I think these days in between games are so important, particularly for her.
Oh, I agree. And I think, like I said, I mean, even though I would agree with you, her game has not been quite yet what it's been last year, you can see it trending in that direction, and it wouldn't shock me at all if come March she's 100% or close to it and ready to go.
Maybe come tournament time where they're going to need her, right?
Yeah.
You know, maybe that'll be the time we see a renewed and rejuvenated. Maybe you won't see 100%, Ken. There's no way, not this year.
Close to it.
Right. We'll be back on the sports desk after these messages.
Creates space. He gives it off to Rivas for the three, and he buries it.
They'll be coming in soon. Double pick set for Avalos. Goes to the right. Avalos puts it up high. Window. Scores and is fouled.
Right here by Lewis all the way, coast to coast, and finish. What a...
Around the screen, against White, step back, it's blocked! JB with the block!
In transition, ahead to hit on for the two-hand hammer.
Minutes to go, they've got a shot, they have a chance, and it's put up, and it's good! What a three that is by Jalen.
Hidon puts it up. Rebound Cowboys. Right side David Hall. Thank you very much. Here come the Cowboys. Domina Lovato lays it up. Missed it. Hey, how about it? Thank you, Lusses. Thank you very much, Raquan Mitchell. Clock at 6. They get it. Barnes Tompkins fires. Yes! Pass up court. This for the win. Blocked by DJ Bustos. Cowboys win. Cowboys win.
The world-famous Laguna Burger is beautifully handcrafted. A burger that's created from certified Angus beef, sinfully cooked to juicy perfection, and garnished with New Mexico's Hatch green chili. Tempt your taste buds with mouth-watering fresh ingredients.
Cut! We're gonna need another Laguna Burger. Try the irresistible, world-famous Laguna Burger. Visit thelagunaburger.com. It's fresh with a kick. Take 32.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
What is glamour? Frailty. What is desire? Diamonds. They say a life lived without passion is hardly worth living.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Dang, this one made me feel all special.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk, live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with our producer extraordinaire, Alden Iowani. Our special guest this morning is Ken Sickenger, beat writer for the UNM New Mexico Women, also Albuquerque Isotopes, UNM Baseball. Check out his articles, albuquerquejournal.com. He does a lot. Loved your article about Ray Birmingham and the Lobos this morning. You know, I do some PA out there, and it's, gosh, some of those games, one game went 5.5 hours last year. I couldn't believe it. Nobody could believe that, right? But,
No.
you know, I think up in the press box, and you've been up there, you're there, you know, when they pitch, we're like, oh, man. Because one guy might pitch to one guy, right? Okay, another guy pitched to one guy, and then the winds at Santa Ana Starfield sometimes, wow. You know, it's an enjoyable experience, though. I love the program. I think Ray Birmingham's going to do some great things. He lost some players. It's a rebuild year. I did read that. I think they're going to do well.
I don't necessarily think it's a rebuild year. I think it's a
reload.
Yeah, reload year. I mean, last year was their down year that they've had in quite some time. They were so short-handed, and they were playing some people that, you know, quite frankly, most years wouldn't even play at UNM, but they had no choice. I think they've really kind of reloaded this with JC kids and with a good freshman class that's highly rated. And they're going to be, you know, it might take them a little while to get some chemistry, but they've got some ability.
Ray Birmingham is one great guy.
Yes, he is. And plus, you know, you and I know each other well because we've sat in that tiny little tin can of a press box together, and if you get to know everyone.
No. You know, one thing that amazed me about Robert Portnoy, you know, I'm drinking water. I have to keep the bathroom's downstairs.
Right.
So Robert Portnoy, for one whole game, didn't drink any water. And I said, Robert, he goes, I can't because I'd have to go to, you know, and this is, you know, how Robert talks in baseball. Robert is awesome. Awesome.
He is.
He's, you know, and I watch him intently because I want to learn, right? He's got all the stats, the monitor, everything taped down. Nothing blows away, right? He's got the stats from, and then he'll say, struck him out on a high heater, got him on a backdoor slider 2 weeks ago in Colorado Springs. I'm like, what? Who knows that? I'm like, geez, the guy who's got all the stats from 3 years ago.
He's a storyteller too. I mean, he comes in with all that knowledge and the background stories because he hangs around and he talks to people. So with baseball, you've got the time for that, and he does a tremendous job with it.
Fills in the blank space like no one I've ever seen.
Agreed.
And like I said, I'm right there. I'm right next to him. So I've got my ear bent to see if I can learn anything, and we can all learn, right?
Of course.
We can all learn. Ken, back to UNM women, we wanted to talk about that. The controversy. We have to bring up this controversy. You know, the controversy surrounding the program. You know, a couple of Lobo players went out on Twitter and said some things about Coach Bradbury and the program, but they were quickly defended by Lobo players of the current program and of the past, saying that Coach Bradbury wasn't an abusive coach and they didn't feel like they were abused in that program. Elaborate a little bit, because a lot of people were wondering why it really wasn't said why Bridie Kennedy Hope Boate left, why Naja Howell left. Jayla Everett supposedly left in good terms, said it wasn't nothing to do with the coaching staff. Although you kind of wonder, she was put on the scout team on Friday. That was it. You know, you kind of wonder. So, Ken, as far, and you're in depth there. You do the interviews, you do the reporting. Let us from your point of view. What do you think?
Well, I mean, with the first two players, they're, you know, being a reporter has given me only so much, because since they left, neither has said anything. I mean, I've sent both of them messages and asked them if they wanted to speak out, and nobody responded. So there really is, you know, a question mark as to why they left. And as far as Jayla Everett goes, I was around her. You know, I mean, there was obviously, I mean, she has told me that there were personal reasons, and she doesn't want to expand on that, and I'll take her at her word. But you could see that there was some frustration building with her. I mean, you've covered her, and as I have, and she had a couple of games this season where she was just crazy good. I mean, the other team couldn't begin to guard her. She could just took over. But then she'd also have some games where, you know, she'd end up 1 for 8 or whatever it was, and was passing up open shots. The fans were yelling at her, and, you know, there was just some frustration building with her. And I think that got to be, there was a little bit of give and take between her and the coaches, and it kind of just boiled to a head. I think it was not a question of, you know, they were ripping her or that she was ripping them back, but whatever was going on in her life was obviously affecting her on the court. And I think that's just, it got to that point where she just decided it's time to do something else.
Now, there's been, what, 11 players left since then, or how many players have left the program in 3 years? There's been a number.
Yeah, if you go back 3 years, I think I got 12.
Okay, so 12 players have left.
Is what it is, but these, you know, most of those are, honestly, had left at the end of the season. Some of them were barely playing, that sort of thing. And you see so many transfers these days that you don't really bat an eye at that too much. But ones that leave in the middle of the season like this is unusual.
And I think some of the allegations were about the staff, that Coach Bradbury's kind of verbally, again, these are allegations, we're not saying they're true, okay? I don't want anybody's saying that we said that, we're not. But some of the allegations were that he's verbally abusive, the staff was verbally abusive, and there was concerns there. As far as your reporting goes, did you uncover anything like that?
Well, like I said, I think, I've been to a lot of practices there. Does Coach Bradbury yell at players? Of course he does. Yes, he does. I mean, he would be happy to sit here and tell you that. That's kind of his coaching style. Now, some players adapt to that, and it doesn't faze them. I think back in our day, you got yelled at when you were a player, and it didn't bother you. But I think it's a different world now, and some players don't appreciate it. They don't, and I think we're seeing that. Some that maybe felt they got the short end of it, or that he went over the top with them. I haven't personally seen it, but that doesn't mean, I'm not going to judge one way or the other. But I would say that different players handle that differently.
I think you're right. I think it's a different time. Back in the day, when I played, and you were at Del Norte when Hugh Dixon was there. I remember Coach Dixon real well. Del Norte was a loaded team around that time when I was at Highland. Loaded. That was before La Cueva. People don't remember there was a time La Cueva wasn't around. And when they weren't, man, the Knights brought it every single night. Boy, they had some talent. But I think when I played back then, coaches could do. I played for Bill Duffy at Pius. And I went to Highland. I played for Wally Sanchez for a while, and there was this, right? There was this, and there was no question asked at all, as long as they didn't punch, and they didn't, but they would let you know. And so I think sometimes those things about yelling, it may have passed on, and coaches coach different, and some, as you mentioned, some players don't react the same way anymore. If you were yelled at back then, it was to get you to play harder, right? You didn't question it, and it's different now. Things are different, coaching's different, players are different. Everything evolves, right? Everything evolves, and it used to be that the coach's word was law, right? I mean, you didn't question it at all. If you did, you didn't play, and they'd throw you off the team. For Coach Gentry, I went to Highland. Coach Gentry was notorious for it's Bill Gentry's law, right? Coach Gentry's law. That's it. No questions asked. Everybody knew that he was the man around campus, right?
Yes,
Everybody knew it. So I think to your point, maybe just. But Coach Bradbury had to kind of know this too. If he's recruiting some of these players, he had to kind of know, right, how they might respond or how they won't because you recruited them.
Well, you would think that, yeah, absolutely. But I think it's the same time when you're out recruiting a player, you're seeing them at their best, and they're seeing you at their best because you're trying to convince them to come here. And it may be a little bit of a different animal once they arrive on campus. And I think, with the transfer numbers or they've been there, but you look on, boy, the transfer portal is just churning these days. It's everywhere. It's not just here. So I think there's a lot of that going on that, coaches go out and recruit a kid, and the kid thinks it's one thing, and when they show up on campus and it's not what they envisioned, or they're not playing as much as they thought they would, and all of a sudden it's heads start butting, and it's I don't know how much of that you put on the coach, how much you put on the player. I think there's blame to go around, but that's just kind of the society we've got now.
Ken, I think where you're coming from, and I understand it, I do. I just think if we knew the reasons why Bridie, Kennedy Hopoate, and Najee Howell, and Jayla Everett said why, it wasn't personal, but we don't hear people speculate. This is one of the worst places for speculation in the world. You know that. We're native New Mexicans. I've lived here all my life. I understand how speculation goes all the way back to the Norm Ellenberger days, all the way back then. So I remember when Mo Eckroth was a coach, the Lady Lobos. These are not Don Flanagan's Lobos, man, at all, right? They're not.
Different
no
world.
knock.
Different world.
No knock, different athlete, different player. So I think if that had been said, because when people don't know, they're going to speculate. This, again, 610 is going to have it, 101.7 is going to have it, speculation all day, local speculation.
Sure.
But I think, to your point, kids transfer even in high school, right? They're looking, I heard this from a coach, they're looking for the next place they're going to get a ring and go to the next level, right? Mm-hmm. Even at the YFL level, one coach was telling me they got rings for a YFL championship. I'm like, are you serious? Seriously, I couldn't believe that. Ken, we got about a minute and a half left. Give us your synopsis, and again, thanks so much for joining us, about where you think the Lady Lobos might finish here.
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting because if you look at where they are, obviously they're 3-6 in the Mountain West, and that's not where they want to be or where anyone expected them to be. But out of those 6 losses, 4 of them have either been by 1 point or in overtime. So they can obviously play with anybody in this league. But that's kind of true up and down the ladder, with maybe the exception of a couple of teams. You're seeing very close games with everybody. I mean, Fresno State is 9-0, and they've won 6 games that came down to the last 30 seconds. It's that close. So I think it's a matter of getting hot at the right time, and this team is capable of that, but they're going to have to, those guards that we talked about are going to have to play well, and they're going to have to shoot well because they don't have a Jason Nunn. They're not going to be able to pound it inside and beat people that way. So they're going to have to shoot well. If they do, they're good enough to play with anyone.
Jaden De La Cerda's been a little up and down. That's the energy off the bench. She brings it. Autumn Watts probably not quite ready for those moments yet, but has had some moments.
She has.
So, you know, I still think there's hope. And again, I think it all centers around Asia Robertson. I really believe that. You know, again, an injured less than 100%, but I still think, you know, with, again, these treatments between games are so important. We'll see how she finishes the season.
Agreed, and like you said, Jaden De La Cerda bent off that energy off the bench. Well, now she's a starter. She has to play a different role.
A little bit different role. Look for your shot a little bit more.
She is, and I think she's attacking the basket a little bit more. I think it's going to be fun to watch what she does in the next, 5 weeks.
She makes things happen. Ken Sickenger, our very special guest, Albuquerque sports beat writer for the UNM Lady Lobos, Albuquerque Isotopes, UNM baseball, men's baseball. Thanks so much for being our guest, Ken. We'll have you back.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
You bet. We'll be back on the sports desk with our other special guests after these messages.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
The Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, hashtag life change will occur.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
What is glamour? Frailty. What is desire? Diamonds. They say a life lived without passion is hardly worth living.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Dang, this one made me feel all special.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rawlins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Our very special guest this morning is the owner, the proprietor of 99.9 The Beat, Mr. Byron Padrell.
Well, thank you for having me.
Byron, man, thanks
Yes,
for
sir.
being with us. Appreciate it. I've been listening, and again, we bring in a lot of different things besides sport. This is a community channel.
Right.
Your radio station is a community radio station, and you're going to do a lot of stuff. You're going to be branching out in some other things. But what I wanted to ask you, we talked about this a little bit. You've been in radio. You started out at KANW with Michael Brasher many years ago. You talked about your experience there and why you wanted to. The process to get your own station was incredible, the way you described it to me.
It's a long process.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because even to file the paperwork and then you get an email one day several years later and it was a go, but it wasn't just, I want the station. Talk about how that all came about.
So it was a turn of events for me in the year 2000. At the time, I was working at a local radio group, commercial group, and they had made some changes. And of course, my position was eliminated. And so on my way out the door that same day, I got onto the FCC website, because they allowed me to finish the day because I did need to do the work. And I applied. I got my numbers and registration and everything, and I applied for my own station. And FCC has what they call windows. And the windows come around every so many years. But apparently this was going to be one of the last windows in our lifetime, because there are so many radio stations. And if you look at Albuquerque, we have 66 radio stations in this market, and it's more than, per capita, more than anywhere in the continental United States, and it's mainly based because of the mountain, the Sandias.
Gosh, yeah.
And so I walked out of there that day, and not knowing if it would ever happen. And in 2013, I was notified that I could go ahead and finish the application process, and that I had to start a nonprofit, which I did. And I said, when I did this, I want to teach kids radio the way that I learned it, which was at KANW. And I call it proper radio. You know, when you look at PBS and things like that, we call it proper radio. So I wanted to do that. And it was 2014 that we got what they call a license to cover. At that point, man, we were going on the air. Now, I didn't know if I could pull it off, you know. And I had nowhere to put the station because it just came out of the blue. So what I did was, years ago, I had changed my zoning on my house to accommodate a home-based business, which was media, which I stayed in since the early 80s. Went down to zoning. Zoning said, you actually are zoned for a broadcast station at your residence. And so I said, you know, if I have to put that big yellow piece of paper that says, you know,
zoning,
I'm going to change my zoning. I already knew everybody'd say no. You know, what's that famous quote? NIMBY, not in my backyard. And I said, well, don't worry about it, because it's going to be in my backyard, you know. And I was able to build the tower. I got all the proper permits. Everything was above board. Got everything done. And it was July 4th at 4:30, we went on the air with and we started off old school. We kept it old school. And that was beginning. So then at that point, I had a studio to build, because I was just shooting from computer to a transmitter. And during the course of time, I went ahead and was able to start buying different pieces of gear to actually build a regular studio. And it was after the first year, I think at that point, that we had a studio. And I said, all right, now it's time to get some staff, and we're going to go live with it. And that was a challenge, because at the time there's a lot of jobs in radio. And of course folks said, well, I want to get paid. Well, I'm thinking, well, I can't pay you because I have to pay for the station. At the time, it was a really strong hobby. And based upon the cost of it, there's no way I could pay anybody. So we went another year without staff. And then that's when we got Eric Garcia. Eric Garcia, I had bugged him, and I worked with Eric Garcia at KANW, where I got started. And he came on board, and then, you know, of course, we went through the years, and things happened, and I ran into a guy named Ed Nunez. and so we're almost fully staffed, and we continue to take this 100-watt station and move forward with it. We're blessed to have a station that actually has a big footprint for 100 watts. And I think that it, for, you know, major markets and major market stations, they felt a little maybe taken back that we were able to get across the city and be able to broadcast where normally a low-powered FM can only go maybe 2 miles at max. But Albuquerque is built different. And so we came from the foothills. And being at the foothills, it put me 1,700 feet over the city so that our signal could go further, and that's what happened. But we continue to strive to make the signal better so that we can do more for the community and just keep it moving that way.
You know, talk about the challenges of that signal, because one of the things you mentioned to me, and I saw it for myself, Henry Tafoya is a very good friend. Henry T., the legendary former owner of 1150 AM, and he would tell me about the challenges of his radio station. So you've got the transmitter, and you've got to get up there. You mentioned to me one time it was cold, it was snowing, and the signal was kind of bleeding into something else. You had to get up there and climb up there and kind of tighten up something up there. So I don't think, you know, whenever we talk, and you've had me on a couple of times, and I realize the challenges of having a studio inside your home. You keep adding on and adding on. So it is quite a challenge. It really is. And I think the other thing is the signal, right? The signal, you're trying to reach out. There's so many different parts of the state. KNW has a signal that, you know, it's right. That's an amazing signal. But you're trying to reach for a 100-watt station. I think the work you have done has been outstanding.
Yes, what we're trying to do is we're waiting on another window. We're hoping two things from the FCC. Number one, that we are able to attain the same power as what they call translators, and those are little station hops. If we can attain the 250 watts, that allows us to actually penetrate buildings a lot better and get a little bit more coverage. Also, we're waiting on the window, hopefully will happen, is to add translators. So the way we're set up is just a little bit different. Our translators have to go to the fringe of our signal, and then we can turn around and transport it out. And so my hopes are to get as far as we can north and as far as we can to the south. So by building in the interim, by building up our signal now to go as far as we can to the south, that possibly I would be able to put a small tower up in Belen. I'll reach out to the Belen city leaders, ask if there's something that we can use out there that allow us to shoot further south. So if we were able to, when this window opens and we can do that and build a 100-foot tower in the Belen area, that would get us into Socorro. And that's pretty much all the coverage that, you know, I think at that point that we'd be able to get as far as going to the south, and it could go further. As you go south, it's a lot flatter. And so our work is to continue in the realm of increasing our signal. And a lot of it is not just putting up the new towers, it's also the equipment that we buy. We've invested heavily in equipment, and I would also like to thank one of our sponsors, which is the Di Lorenzo Auto Group. When we were down last year, and my transmitter just kept going on and off, you know, $6,000 for a transmitter. And they heard about it, and Jason Rigby from Di Lorenzo Mazda just showed up at my house about 11 o'clock at night with a very large check and said, get what you need. And I tell you what, God's blessed us ever since, and we've formed a partnership that is unparalleled. And we do a lot of stuff for each other. Even though we're a nonprofit, we cannot run commercials, we run underwriting. But we do a lot for each other, and we'd like to thank them for the work that they've done with us.
Yeah, they've been amazing. Community sponsor for a community-based radio, there's so many things that a radio station, there's so many things you want to do in the community. And as I mentioned, being a community guy myself and working in as many centers as I have, it spoke to the community part of passion, right? Of reaching out, helping young kids. And we'll talk about your proposed broadcast school, the next segment. And the music, though, I got to tell you that, you know, I heard Belle Biv DeVoe the other day.
Oh, yeah.
The Michael McDonald, Steely Dan, if the Temptations, Aretha Franklin. If you love old school music, which I grew up with, we all, you know, people our age. You know, you're a little younger than me, but we all grew up with that. And so I think the music itself, and you tell me this too, the reaction from the community to the music station has been what?
Oh, it's been outstanding. You know, we can't, it's not that we can't, I don't pay for ratings. It's a cost that is above and beyond even what it takes for me to run the stations. But I think something better than having Nielsen ratings is the fact that as an urban station, a homegrown local station, that we are on the ground and that we go out to the people. And when 6 out of 10, sometimes 8 out of 10 people say, I love that station, that's better than any book that Nielsen can put out.
Anytime, any book, anytime. We got one more segment with Byron Podrell after these messages on the Sports Desk.
The world-famous Laguna Burger is beautifully handcrafted. A burger that's created from certified Angus beef, sinfully cooked to juicy perfection, and garnished with New Mexico's Hatch green chili. Tempt your taste buds with mouth-watering fresh ingredients.
Cut! We're gonna need another Laguna Burger. Try the irresistible, world-famous Laguna Burger. Visit thelagunaburger.com. It's fresh with a kick. Take 32.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
The Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, hashtag life change will occur.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk, live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Our very special guest in our second segment has been Byron Podrell, the owner of 99.9 FM. The Beat.
Yes.
You got to give it a little flow, right?
Got to flow.
Little flow. You got some announcers on that station that, man, you know, they bring it, right? They the Beat.
Everybody brings it on this station. I think every day that their spirit shows up to work, it's an excited spirit. And because they know that every day that they get to do more for the community each time and make people happy. That's kind of the big goal. And as you were saying earlier, you know, we're going to expand what we're doing with the station. And now it's time to do it.
I want to talk about that a little bit because, like I said, I called you after the new year. I've been retired for a month, right? And I said to myself, I got to get more busy. I'm still doing my broadcasting with Western New Mexico with ProView Networks. But I you know, during the day, I'm not as busy, right? And I'm used to being at work. I'm used to doing, you know, something busy, active minds, right?
That's right.
And so I called you out on a whim. I said, let me call him. You know, I listen to your station. Let me call him. He doesn't know me from Adam, but what the heck? I got nothing to lose, right? I'm retired. You say no, we go back to what I was doing,
That's right?
So, you know, we kind of forged a relationship, and in talking to you about your station, now this is where you want to expand. Let's talk about the broadcast, the charter school you want to start.
So a few years ago, we embarked on a mission to start a charter school. And in that mission, I ran into a couple of roadblocks. I think that maybe you don't try to do a charter school at the same time you're running for city council. So it was a lot of work in that time period. And so I pulled back on the charter school. Now, we've since filed our paperwork with APS to do this charter school again. And now we're going through the process. And what we're doing is something that has not been done here before. Now, there's a lot of schools that are doing film and theater and things like that. But our future is what we hold in our hands, all right? When a 2-year-old kid knows how to swipe and get into your cell phone, okay, we know where we're headed. And so you get your news from your phone, you get your sports, you get your weather, you get special alerts. Everything happens on the go. And so now we're a community on the go. And so our media has got to move in a different direction. It has not changed that over 90% of people who listen to radio listen to it in their cars. So that part hasn't changed. But that other small percent are doing it a different way. And so we want to teach that. I want to teach kids the way I did and not have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars and having to relocate to learn this trade and never get a chance to get either behind a camera or in front of a microphone. And we want to give them that chance. And so the idea now is to create this charter school and move the station into the charter school, but create multiple stations within it. The kids will hire staff from within the school, and they will run their different formats at the school. We'll do podcasting. We'll do work with video and audio production. We want to, at some point, have a recording studio that has the ability for post-production to work with Netflix and any other movie companies that come to town, so that the school also brings money back into the community. Because right now, money goes out of the community for a lot of the post-production work. Well, we want to keep it here. So that's one of the things we want to do. We also want to train kids in this fast-growing media that actually has invaded New Mexico. You know, with Netflix buying the Albuquerque studios up there, it has opened up thousands of jobs. Now, the options are we can train people and they can take those jobs, or we don't have to train them and people can come here from other states and take jobs from people that are here. Mm-hmm. So we want to keep the jobs here. We want to keep the money here, and we want to keep moving forward in technology. And what makes us a little different as one station, it's easier to afford to move up in technology than it is to have 10 stations and do it. And so a lot of stations stay with what's working. We want to move forward, continuous with technology, but at the same time, we want to keep localism. We want people that you can actually reach out and talk to, and not just a computer in a room playing music. That's not going to happen with us. And I see that as long as we keep going the same direction that we're going, that radio is going to turn around, and broadcasting will turn around to the point to where it regains its power from the people and not having power over the people. So that's one of the things we're going to do.
One of the things you mentioned that was very interesting to me, iHeart radio just laid off a number of different personalities, and one of the things you mentioned is that people still want local radio. They still want the local part of that. You know,
That's
you
right.
mentioned that to me, and because iHeart just laid off, what, 1,200 people about 2 weeks ago?
You know what? I was reading this morning on Radio Inc. There's no real true numbers are in, but what's fascinating about what their corporate did was there's some stations have actually no talent on it, and that they pipe in what they call syndication. Yeah, I want to say this: we want to create syndication, but we don't want to take jobs from people. I read this morning, and I did post it, so I have no problem with that. I have no problem posting it. People know me, know I'm very outspoken when it comes to this industry, because there are no gold watches in this industry. And some of the executives at this monster corporation have gotten tremendous raises and bonuses at the expense of laying off all these people. And a senator, I believe from Ohio, has now started to look into this. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out, because eliminating what they call the main studio rule just means that you don't have to have anybody in the studio anymore. But some of the members of the FCC board said no, because if you eliminate that, you eliminate localism. How can radio be local if your talent is coming out of another place? If all your programming has come from somewhere else, where is that local? Yeah, you can run local shows that somebody has a pre-record and put on, but what happened to the live side? It's no longer live. Live makes it local.
Where are you as far as this broadcast school is? It's proposed, right? You've got some work to do, but how far do you think might it be? I know there's a lot of plans that you have in the works. You might not be ready to reveal them all, but where are you as far as the timing? I mean, how long do you think it'll be before you've got this charter school going?
It's pretty much going to be based upon what we do at this point. We still will have to take classes, but we still have a charter to write. We've got some of the greatest minds of charter schools here in the city that are helping us. And as a matter of fact, just because it's broadcasting does not mean your math, your English, and your social studies don't count. I'm bringing in one of the best and well-known principals in the city's history is Milton Baca. And Milton Baca is going to be the administrator for the school. And our agreement is, and it's something that we really didn't have to agree on, because I already know that our core education is first and foremost before anything. If you don't have your grades up, then you won't participate in the radio side. So don't come to the school thinking, well, I'm just going to go do radio and I'm going to skip the rest. That's not going to happen. We're also requiring in this school that you take 2 years of a foreign language. It's required. And as a school, I'm going to take Spanish. My kids are half Hispanic, and they know more Spanish than I do, and I feel ashamed about that they know more than I do. I've got to take the class too. Look, I'm taking the classes. I'm looking at you. I got to take the class too. I'll be taking the class. And we want to make a school that not only puts out students with very high grades, but it puts out students that have a knowledge that they can go knock on a door and drop a resume and say, not only did I learn this, but I had my hands on it. I know how to work it. That person gets the job.
I think you've got so many plans for this charter-based school, and again, having Milton Baca, certainly a shot in the arm there. Milton Baca is the former principal at Highland, several other schools in the APS district. Got about a minute left, Byron. Anything else you want to say? It's your time here. About 99.9 to beat. Anything else you want to say?
So here's my 1 minute. My window.
Here you go.
We are 99thebeatfm.com. Check us out on the web, and we stream 24 hours a day. You can get us when you find us on your FM dial. Lock us in, because we can't lock everywhere. Remember, we're only 100 watts, but once you log us in, you can pretty much get us everywhere. You want to know what we're doing? We have Instagram, which is at 99thebeatabq. You can find us there. Follow us there. And anytime that you want to come by, you can reach out to me. My number is 505-304-8809. Come by, visit the studios. Always welcome to give tours of the studio. It's a short tour because it's not a very big room, but it is our studio, and this is where we do it. We're working on podcasting. If you have a great idea for podcasting, or if you're a nonprofit and you want your words getting out about your activities or your organization, we're glad to help you.
Byron Podrell, owner and proprietor of 99.9 The Beat. Thanks so much for being our guest.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, appreciate it.
All right.
We'll be back next Tuesday on the Sports Desk.
The world-famous Laguna Burger is beautifully handcrafted. A burger that's created from certified Angus beef, sinfully cooked to juicy perfection, and garnished with New Mexico's Hatch green chili. Tempt your taste buds with mouth-watering fresh ingredients.
Cut! We're gonna need another Laguna Burger. Try the irresistible world-famous Laguna Burger. Visit thelagunaburger.com. It's fresh with a kick. Take 32.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not